Good morning, everyone. It's actually this is Saturday morning, and I'm in the chapel right now, getting ready for a funeral for Georgia Sharp's nephew. And so the room is ready for Sunday, and we're going to be in Revelation chapter 17. I think we can cover the entire chapter 17. So um, remember, we've had the seven letters to the seven churches, followed by seven seals, followed by seven trumpet judgments, followed by seven bowl judgments. We're coming to nearing the end of Revelation, well more than halfway. And so chapter 17 gets us in some more uh, aspects of John's vision, his revelation that was revealed to him. And so let's look at it. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers on earth have become drunk." This is highly symbolic language, of course. Just as the woman in Revelation 12 represents Israel, this great prostitute can represent unfaithful Israel. But I believe it's much more than that. A great whore of Babylon, the great whore of Babylon, is this world's fallen, humanistic, materialistic, wicked, evil, degenerate. How many adjectives can I get? Greedy, fornicating, adulterous, murderous, and blasphemous state of existence. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. Jeremiah 51:7 says, "Babylon was a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunk. The nations drank her wine. Therefore the nations are deranged." So this predicament that the world will find itself in is largely characterized by sexual immorality and all sorts of just sins that are encompassed with all the degradation that humanity can conjure up. I have this video called The Harlot of Revelation, and I found this, and I think it gives a pretty good overview of who and what this um, prostitute upon this beast is representing, and the golden chalice that she is holding. Let's watch this.
All right, today we are jumping headfirst into one of the Bible's biggest, most fascinating mysteries, the Great Harlot from the book of Revelation. We're talking about a figure of incredible power and wealth who's right at the center of a world-changing prophecy. So let's get right into the vision that has had people guessing for centuries. Wow. I mean, the vision kicks off with this incredibly powerful and honestly pretty terrifying image. You've got a woman, a bizarre scarlet beast, and she's described as being drunk on the blood of the saints. It's a scene that has absolutely captivated and, really confused readers for thousands of years. So that's the big question, right? Who is she? What does all of this mean? That's the mystery we're going to tackle. Using our source text, we're going to follow the clues piece by piece to decode her identity and really get to the bottom of what this ancient prophecy is all about. Our investigation starts with the name that's literally written on her forehead: Mystery Babylon the Great. Now, according to our source, this isn't just some random label. It's the master key. It's the clue that unlocks this whole thing. And get this, the name Babylon shows up 287 times in the Bible. I mean, think about that. That's more than any other city except for Jerusalem. That kind of frequency is a huge clue that we're not just talking about some old city in the desert. This has to be something much, much bigger. And here's the most crucial point to grasp. Revelation isn't talking about the ancient city in modern-day Iraq. No, our source defines Babylon as a spiritual idea. It's a code word for the entire global system of power, money, and culture that, at its core, stands against God. So what does that world system actually look like? Well, it's all about organized false religion, pride, hurting God's people, and just a deep, consuming love for stuff, for material things. The source makes it clear that this system has always existed. It just changes its mask in every generation. Okay, now let's zoom in on the two main characters in this drama. We have the woman, the harlot, and that scarlet beast she's riding. Their relationship is everything. It's totally symbolic, and it's right at the heart of this prophecy. So let's start with the harlot herself. Check out what she's wearing: purple and scarlet. Back then, those colors were crazy expensive. Only royalty, the absolute elite, could afford them. So her clothes are an instant sign that she represents massive wealth and political clout. And it doesn't stop with the clothes. She is literally covered in gold, precious stones, and pearls. This isn't subtle at all. The vision paints her as the poster child for worldly luxury. She symbolizes a system that is just so seductive because of all the riches it offers. But here's the twist. She's holding this beautiful golden cup. Looks amazing on the outside, right? But inside, it's full of corruption. Now, our source points out that in the Bible, the word fornication is very often used as a symbol for idolatry, for being spiritually unfaithful. So she's offering the world something that looks good, but is spiritually toxic. So let's just break this down very clearly. You've got two figures. The harlot, Babylon, stands for a single, worldwide, false religious system. The beast she's riding on, that represents the ultimate global political power, what the source identifies as the government of the Antichrist. It's a classic you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours relationship. The political power holds her up, and in return, she makes that power look legitimate, even holy. Now, to make it even clearer who this harlot is, our source gives us this fantastic side-by-side comparison. See, Revelation actually shows us two symbolic women. There's another woman from an earlier chapter who represents God's people. She's dressed in the sun and stars. But the harlot, she's the mother of harlots, draped in jewels and influencing kings. They are total opposites, cosmic enemies. And what about the beast? The source says its 7 heads represent 7 world empires that have persecuted God's people throughout history. The prophecy even gives us a timeline. When it was written, 5 were already gone. Think Egypt, Assyria, ancient Babylon. 1 that was the Roman Empire at the time, and a final 7th empire has not yet come, which the source says is the future empire of the Antichrist. So here you have this incredible alliance, a global religious system and a global political system working together. You'd think they're unstoppable. But then the vision hits us with a massive plot twist, a sudden, shocking, and violent betrayal. So here's the play-by-play. The political power, the beast, uses the religious system, the harlot, to gain total control. But as soon as its power is absolute, well, it doesn't need her anymore. The beast and its allies will literally turn on the very religious system that put them in power, and they will completely destroy it. So, why? What's the motive for this shocking turn? The source connects it right to this passage. See, the ultimate goal of this final world leader isn't to share the stage. It's to demand worship for himself and himself alone. Once that false religion has done its job uniting the world, it becomes competition, and he's going to get rid of it. Okay, so what in the world does all of this mean for us today? This is a complex ancient vision, but our source wraps it up by explaining why this symbol of Babylon the Great is truly timeless. And this right here is the main takeaway. Babylon isn't just about some one-world religion in the distant future. According to the source, it's the constant, ever-present temptation of the world system, that seductive mix of money, power, and spiritually empty religion that has been around in every single era, including right now. The vision ends by calling the harlot the great city that rules the world. Back in the 1st century, that was obviously Rome. But the text leaves us with one final, really provocative question to think about. If Babylon is the system of global influence, power, and wealth, where do we see that great city at work in our world today?
I thought that video was very good, and probably in the class tomorrow I'll pause it uh, here, and we will have some discussion about this harlot of Revelation. But let's continue on with the scriptures. The worship of false gods and the development of false religions has a long and sordid history, probably beginning with Nimrod after the flood. Nimrod was the first leader to start a war. He conquered Babel, or which became Babylon, and he built Nineveh, which both became very pagan oriented cities. But after Nimrod died, his wife Semiramis claimed uh, to have been impregnated by the sun god and miraculously gave birth to Tammuz, which was then touted as being the reincarnation of Nimrod. If you know anything about these words, um, Nimrod, Tammuz, and some of these others, I'll give you these other names of pagan gods. Several of them were um, said to have been born miraculously on December 25th. And that is one reason that Christmas was selected to be celebrated on December 25th in an effort to try and Christianize a very pagan day. And I don't go along with that. And Jesus certainly wasn't born in December anyway. But that's another story. The expansion of pagan gods spread quickly. The Chaldeans, Assyrians, called the sun god Bel or Baal, and of course you know the word Baal is one of the false gods that Ezekiel went up against. Egyptians called him Osiris. Babylonians called the sun god Bel Merodach. The Persians called him Mithra, and you've heard of Mithras, perhaps, another false religion. Greeks called him Zeus. The Romans called him Jupiter. Then Constantine came along and redefined Christianity for the Greco-Roman world, but he kept a lot of the pagan traditions. And he was very anti-Semitic, by the way. This woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. We saw that in that video, how this golden goblet is filled with the abominations, with sins, um, and how the woman in Revelation 17 is contrasted with the woman that we read about in Revelation 12. Revelation 12 symbolizes um, the children of Israel, or Israel. And this woman symbolizes perhaps Israel gone disobedient and adulterous, but it also just summarizes the world's pagan orientation. And on her forehead was written a name, Mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. When I saw her, I marveled greatly. So, who or what is Mystery Babylon? Many identify Mystery Babylon in Revelation as Jerusalem, particularly in the context of the first century and the destruction of the city in AD 70. Mystery Babylon is described as a great city and a harlot, drunk with the blood of the saints. This imagery aligns with Jesus' condemnation of Jerusalem for shedding the blood of prophets and saints, predicting its destruction within that generation. The city is also portrayed as morally corrupt and spiritually adulterous, which corresponds to the repeated Old Testament accusations of Jerusalem's spiritual whoredom. Revelation was written around AD 65, before the fall of Jerusalem. The text repeatedly emphasizes that the events must soon take place, suggesting that the prophecy concerns imminent historical events rather than distant future occurrences. The destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans shortly after the writing of Revelation does fulfill the narrative of divine judgment described in the text. The use of Babylon serves as a symbolic code, drawing a parallel to the ancient city of Babylon's moral decay and judgment. Other candidates like Rome, Babylon in Iraq, or modern cities have been proposed. I remember one time people thought it would be New York, but the strongest evidence points to Jerusalem. Revelation 11:8 says, "And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city," that symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt. But then it says, "where their Lord was crucified." Well, that certainly points to Jerusalem. But the angel said to me, "Why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not, and is about to rise from the bottomless pit and go to destruction, and the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come." Both of these phrases, this repeated phrase, describes the multiple fulfillment of this prophecy. The beast was the Antichrist, Antiochus Epiphanes. That's the one that was. And Rome was and now is not. That would speak of Rome in John's time, at the time of this writing, but is coming again in our day. So that is the one about to rise and is to come. There will be a new Antichrist and a new beast. I want to focus back in on this green part that says, "And the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to see the beast." Well, those are the ones whose names are not in the book of life. What about the people whose names are written in the book of life? Is this saying that they will not be there to see the beast? This could be interpreted to mean that those whose names are written in the book of life, the saved, the righteous, either will not be on earth to see the beast, or just that they will not marvel to be or be perplexed by the presence of the beast. It says those whose names have not been written will marvel to see the beast. Maybe it means that those whose names are written in the book of life, they will um, they will just not be marveling by the perplexity of the presence of the beast, because we, those whose names are written in the book of life, will have been forewarned about it, and it will not take us by surprise. We are expecting it. So this could be a supporting verse for some point of rapture where the people whose names are written in the book of life are taken out to not be able to see the beast. Something to think about. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only a little while. Well, the 7 mountains can be interpreted as 7 hills upon which Rome sat. And here are the names of them. Most of us, we've never heard of these names of these hills, but it could be a reference to Rome sitting upon 7 hills. But 7 is the perfect number of completeness. So the 7 mountains could mean the totality of the corruption of this world. The 7 heads being 7 mountains. There are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. Now, the 7 kings may refer to 5 wicked kings of the Old Testament times. They've fallen. The one who is most likely a reference to the Roman ruler at the time of John's exile to Patmos. Most Christian scholars place the Apostle John's exile to the island of Patmos during the late reign of Emperor Domitian, around AD 95 to 96. Domitian ruled from AD 81 to 96 and was known for his autocratic style and persecution of Christians. Under his rule, refusal to worship the emperor as a deity was seen as a threat to Roman authority, and early Christians were targeted for their refusal. Of course, the one who has not yet come, that is a reference to the coming Antichrist. One of the coming Antichrist. There's been more than one. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an eighth, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. And 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. Sounds very end time-ish and apocalyptic. The 8th beast, being described as one who was and is not, could be a reference to the final Antichrist, whose spirit has been around previously for a long time, vanished, and is coming back. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. So these 10 kings, there are the 10 horns of the beast, and they represent 10 world leaders who will be in alignment with the beast of the great tribulation time. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. This is a good synopsis of what the situation at end times will be. The question for you is, are you with him or not? I'll read that again. They will make war on the Lamb. There's a battle of Armageddon coming. He is Lord of lords and King of kings. Those that are with him, that's hopefully you and I, we are with him. Are you with him or not? We are the called and the chosen and the faithful, the elect. The 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. What? I thought the prostitute was riding upon the back of the beast. So this is what's going on here. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. The prostitute sitting on the beast represents the unfaithful bride of Yah's people, who embraced the seductions of the world while holding to a form of godliness, yet denying its truth and power. Even the beast and the 10 horns will hate such a weak and pathetic lot. The prostitute is the epitome of hypocritical religion, and the forces of darkness deem it totally useless and a disgrace. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. Here again, speaking of the great city, is it just speaking about Jerusalem, or is that a word that encompasses all of mystery Babylon, all the sordidness, the sinfulness, the degradation of humanity at the end times? Just as Pharaoh was used by Yahweh for his purposes in developing and freeing his people Israel, the Father will use the 10 horns as pawns in his hands to bring about his purposes on earth. God put it into the hearts of those 10 to carry out his purpose of being one and mighty and handing over the royal power to the beast.
They will make war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will triumph over them, because he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. And he will be accompanied by his called and chosen and faithful ones. And then the angel said to me, the waters you saw, where the prostitute was seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns and the beast that you saw will hate the prostitute. They will leave her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by uniting to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. And the woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. They will make war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will triumph over them, because he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. And he will be accompanied by his called and chosen and faithful ones. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw, where the prostitute was seated, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns and the beast that you saw will hate the prostitute. They will leave her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by uniting to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth.
That is the end of this Revelation chapter 17. It's rather short, only took 26 minutes, but in class I'm sure we'll have a little more discussion. So thank you for joining. I will see you next week.